Welcome. I'm Elinor Silverstein, and today I'm here with Dan Clurman, who is a Feldenkrais practitioner. And Dan has quite an extensive historical, biographical background in so many ways of working with people. Dan, talk to us a little bit about some of the components that you use and how does that inform your Feldenkrais awareness through movement lessons um, and there's also something very special at the end that we want to share with people. So
Sure.
tell us a little bit about this.
Okay. So I use regular Feldenkrais awareness through movement lessons and of course FI, functional integration. I've over the years I've noticed that certain other forms of inquiry have been very useful for clients who are doing the Feldenkrais practice and in my classes. One method I've developed that is I'm calling somatic inquiry is where after doing a lesson or during doing a lesson, as people develop a sense of their body as a whole and individual regions of the body, and they're tuning in a more meditative way to the whole presence of the body, I'll ask them to notice if any region of the body is signaling them in some way. And they don't have to know why or how, just to notice if some region is highlighting itself in their awareness and perhaps wanting some sort of resource. So many times people will notice that indeed something is signaling them in a variety of ways. It could be sensations, it could be light, colors, sound. However it does, it's just fine. And I ask them, does that region want a resource? And it signals sometimes it does. They don't have to know what kind or how that's going to happen, just to pick up on it. We do this naturally when we injure a hand. Say you bump a hand, it's bruised, you put the other hand on it and you comfort it, for example. And that's a natural response, bodily. Then, after they detect that, I ask them to ask or inquire, put it out to the whole field of the body, whether there's any region or part that wants to be a resource. And just to listen, just to welcome that in this open meditative space. And often some region will offer itself as a resource. And again, they don't have to know how it's going to do that, why it's going to do that. All they're doing is they're letting the communication open up between the different regions of the body, which the ATM lesson has already started the process for. Then I encourage them to let the two parts be in communication with each other, two or more parts. And I can give you a specific example of this too. And they often do. And again, I stress, you don't have to know how that's going to happen.
So give us an example, because when you talk about parts, that's not something we talk about in Feldenkrais, so to speak. So what do you mean like that?
Sure. So when we begin the inquiry with one person, for example, had trouble sleeping, and in doing a lesson, when I ATM lesson that was connecting the different regions of the body, it was connecting the pelvis to the ribs to the head, then resting in the sense of the awareness of the body, the head region immediately signaled that it wanted a resource. And this person said, yeah, that's very typical because I often feel like I'm located in my head and that keeps me up at night because there's a kind of concentration
Oh.
in the head region that seems almost feverish at times.
Mm.
So I said, fine, then let's open it up and see if there's another region that can be a resource.
Mm.
And again, tuning into the whole body, just being aware and putting the inquiry out, and the feet started to signal that they would be willing to be a resource. And in a particular way, like not only just the presence of the feet, but the feet wanted to push against something to clarify their sense of contact and presence. So put a pillow down there and push against it. And then I said, well, let them converse with each other, basically, communicate. And I said, just give them permission to do it. You don't have to know how. Maybe something will suggest itself, perhaps a movement might, or there's a sense of vibration going on, or colors. Whatever is appearing for you is just fine. And I like to give people complete permission to let the process unfold however it does. So when we did that, there was an immediate shift from being focused in the head to dropping down into the abdomen, which was very interesting. And the person said, yeah, now I feel like I'm settling into my abdomen, and my breath has started to change, and it's almost like I'm starting to occupy my abdomen, and my head has eased off. It's back down from that intensity. But then the person said, but I'm afraid it's not going to be enough. So we did the inquiry again and said, is there any other region that wants to be a resource again? And this time, the hands and the palms of the hands started signaling. So he said, okay, why don't you let the hands join in with the feet as a resource and notice how that affects the total sense of the body. So the hands started to connect. It was slow. And then gradually, the person had a sense of occupying their torso again. That they shifted out of the space of the head down into the region of the torso and felt much, much calmer and said, if I can do this and practice this, that's going to calm me down at night, because now I feel like between the hands and the feet, I actually can just rest more within the natural pattern of breathing. And I feel calmer. And I don't feel like I'm thinking as much. I don't have as much of that anxiety. It just seems a lot calmer to be here. That was an example of somatic inquiry.
So how do you bring that into your Feldenkrais practice, or how does that inform the way you work?
I do. So what I do is I'm doing a whether it's FI or ATM, I'll do a conventional approach.
FI is functional integration, ATM is awareness movement, because we're talking to public. So go ahead and
sure, functional integration, hands-on, or ATM, awareness through movement. And sometimes because we're working on Zoom a lot, I'll just be doing awareness through movement. And we'll reach a point where someone has done a particular lesson that's related to something they've reported as being an issue, and it could be pain is a very common issue associated with a particular region of the body, neck pain, shoulder pain, back pain, pain in some region of the spine. And we'll do the somatic inquiry. And they will locate some area that's giving them an issue in some way, and then invite another region in. And I don't even talk about parts. I usually say region because it's more open than that.
Right. Yeah. Nice.
And the region will suggest itself, especially if they've been working with Feldenkrais for a while. They're already pretty sensitive to their awareness of themselves on a physical, emotional level. And then we let that unfold. And sometimes they'll say, I feel the immediate connection happened, and all of a sudden, and I'll have them scale it, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the pain like in this region before we do it. After we do the somatic inquiry, we'll rescale it, what's it like, and it can drop from, like, say, a 7 to a 2 or 3.
Wow.
It doesn't get rid of it, but decreases the intensity so that they have a sense of some kind of regulation of the intensity. Because that's often, if someone can decrease their pain by 10, 15%, that's a gift for them. Without drugs, just doing it through that somatic awareness. So I've done that with a number of people, and it just worked for them. Especially for people where it's painful to do things that are too big in some way. Where you want to go for the subtlety because they easily can trigger a pain response.
Mm-hmm.
But the somatic inquiry and that kind of awareness, that's so light and so easy, it doesn't trigger hardly anything that is adverse. And when people do it, they start practicing it more and more, and they just report that they're more attuned to how different regions of the body can act as a resource if they just get into the welcoming, open space to asking for it.
Beautiful. So let's talk about this special gift that's happening in your life right now,
Oh,
and it's with your wife, and maybe you can talk about that.
well, the other work I do as a communication coach and trainer, and my
And what
wife and
is
I
your
are
wife's name?
Mudita Nisker, and we've worked together for over 35 years teaching our methodology, which is specific. We created this particular methodology. And over the years, we've done it in organizations, government, corporations, couples, individuals, still doing it a lot. And I teach in a university, so I do it there in a graduate course. And people have been asking, is there any book on this? And so there isn't. And we just, after 6 years, finally are publishing our book on it. So that's coming out in another week or so. It's called
Okay.
Let's Talk, a Skillful Guide.
Ah,
And it's, sorry, an essential guide to skillful communication.
well, what's in your hand?
The book.
All right.
So that'll be available in Amazon and available in bookstores soon. And there'll be an audiobook in the fall, most likely, as well.
Fantastic.
And you can get it through our website, too, which will be letstalkmethod.com.
And is there a place that people can get a sample of your awareness through movement lessons that are
Yes.
meditation based? What is your website?
Website is feldenkrais and there is a page with audio lessons, sample audio lessons, and there'll be several up on a regular Feldenkrais awareness through movement lesson coupled with somatic inquiry.
Wow.
So
Okay.
people want to try that out. It's very relaxing. Even if you don't have much happening on the somatic inquiry side, it's extremely relaxing to just do the lesson anyway.
I'm looking forward to it. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this to let people know?
I just appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about this and to present at the conference,
Hmm.
to go into it. And we'll go into somatic inquiry, but we'll also go into some other meditative aspects of the Feldenkrais approach when it's combined with meditation, with these somatic meditative practices that I've been studying.
Beautiful, which are numerous. I'm sure you'll be able to see it on his biography, right? You have that
Yeah,
somewhere?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Over the years, many different disciplines, they all sort
Yes.
of integrate into each other.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dan. It's such a pleasure, and I truly appreciate it. And I'm very happy that you have a book that is out. That's the first part is out, and it'll be coming out for people to get, and they'll know how to find it and know how to find your awareness through movement lessons. So, thank you very, very much. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Eleanor. Appreciate it too.
Talk to you soon.